and welcome to ScaredyCat's Guide to the Rides. This is my brand new series which is talking about all the things that you might need to know to get you on a ride that you might be frightened of. And today we're talking Th13. So Th13 is one of those rides that actually I really recommend if you're sort of building up your tolerance to rides, because frankly its bark is way worse than its bite. Now the thing with Th13 is that I would advise the queue line is actually kind of scarier than the ride. Now if you know about the surprise element, you might be thinking that can't be right, but honestly I think it kind of is, although it does depend a little on what scares you, I guess. Now talking about surprise element, I'm gonna mention it later on, and I'll say that I'm mentioning it, and from then on it will not be a spoiler free zone, so at that point please tune out. But we'll cover the rest of the elements of the ride first, so you can make that decision as to whether or not you want to keep it a surprise or not, if it even is these days. But you never know, you don't want to ruin it for someone, do you? So 13, let's talk about the ride experience. Now lucky for you guys, I've just done it twice in a row, so it's proper fresh in the old noggin. Now the queue line itself is quite wavy. You do get quite a lot of long queues on 13 because it is one of those rides which caters to the lower height limit but offers a little bit of a thrill. So for that reason, always, if you can, try and go to it as one of the first rides of the day. We've just pretty much nearly walked on twice, so that sort of says a bit about, you know, and it's Saturday in July, so yeah, always worth doing that first in my opinion. So yeah, the queue line is a little bit atmospheric when you're on the outside bit. You kind of have this feeling that you're going through a forest. It's a little bit spooky. You might have mist machines if they're on, and you wave round and then you get towards the building. Now most of the time you do your backdrop on the outside. On a quiet day you might do it on the inside, on the opposite side of the platform, but normally you do it on the outside. You just hand over your bag and they give you a wristband. Now after that you make your way up the stairs and into the station. Just a little tip, if you are somebody who's a little bit nervous about queuing on stairs, sometimes it is a little bit of that. However, they are solid, they're concrete. It's not like Revolution at Blackpool where you're looking down or anything like that, but just something to be aware of if you're a bit unsteady on stairs. Now, this is when it gets a little bit spooky. They ramp up that storytelling. You have lots of sort of eerie dead girl whisperings and that kind of thing. And as you go into that building, it's sort of cages. I say cages, I mean there's one cage in the middle and there's that kind of metal wiring. You get a bit of spooky music as well, and it's just a bit of a spooky atmosphere. Now one thing to be aware of if you are of the jumpy sort is that there is I can never remember what it's called, hopefully I can edit this and put it in, or someone smart in the comments tell me what it is, but it's one of those electricity things that goes off. I think it might be a Tesla coil, there we go, brain catching up. And that goes off seemingly at random. However, the trick is it's not at random. So if you listen to those dead girl whisperings, you will hear her counting to 13, like the ride. When you get to 13, that means it's about to go off. So me personally, I'm the jumpy sort. I hear 10 and I start thinking, okay, time to start bracing myself, it's gonna happen. Yeah, and then you, from that bit, you then make your way down the stairs and onto the platform. And from there you will board the train. It's lap bars, and I have to say they're quite forgiving lap bars as well. So if you are a little bit worried about being over the bigger sort, actually they're normally relatively forgiving. Now in terms of the ride experience, you have a little bit of sound effect just as you leave the station, nothing jumpy, just atmosphere building, and you'll swoop round and you'll go up the lift hill. If you're a bit nervous about heights, my recommendation for this ride is to sit on the left hand side. The reason for that is when you go up the lift hill there is then a little bit of barrier there on the left, whereas it's a bit more of a drop on the right. It's not a terribly high ride, but it used to freak me out because I'm not good at heights, so if you are really nervous, it's just something to be aware of really. Yes, so then the ride experience. Now this is, I have to be honest, it's quite tame. There's a drop that actually, you know, you do feel like you're looking down it a bit, so again, if you're nervous at heights, something to be aware of, but it's not too much of anything. In many ways, if you've already done Runaway Mine Train and you kind of like that swoopy, rushy feeling, you're just getting that on a slightly bigger scale. Yeah, I want to be like, oh, it does this to be aware of, but actually it really doesn't. It's really surprisingly gentle. We just had a front row and actually just get the nice pleasant breeze, and you have, you know, the leaves of the forest around you and things like that, and it's actually just really charming and nice. And then you have a bit of a change mid-course. So from here on out, if you want to avoid the spoilers, time to turn off the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe. So countdown, 3, 2, 1. Spoiler territory. Okay, so you may or may not know this, but you probably do. So what happens is you go up into the building and you have a drop track section. It was really innovative that this ride introduced it, and I can understand why if you've not experienced anything like that, it might be a little bit scary. I mean, the dropping sensation is a really hard one to imagine if you've not done it before. But the really good thing about this ride as an introduction to doing a drop like that is it does a little drop and then the bigger drop. When I say a bigger drop, it's about a floor in a house. It's not actually that big, but you get that warning, you get to prepare yourself. It's not a shock. And that I think is really, really handy for your first experience. Now, if you've not done a drop before, you might be thinking, I'm gonna get the really horrible stomach feeling. It's gonna feel really heavy, like I've been pulled down. I don't find that. I find that actually it's the opposite. You feel quite light and you just sort of float a little bit for like just a couple of seconds that it is. And again, it's not that high. It's really easy to big this up in your imagination, and I promise you it is nowhere near as bad as that. I would not ever say, oh, it's not bad, if I thought actually it is going to terrify a person. And if you know what's coming, it shouldn't, because you have the warning, and like I say, it's over in seconds and it's not that high either. So yeah, and after that, you've done the drop section, you then come back out and you do a bit of a sort of helix deal, going backwards in the dark. So yes, if you're afraid of the dark, that might be one thing to be aware of. But again, that section's over quite quickly, and it's speedy, but it's gentle. After that, you have a little bit of a launch into a launch, a very minor, just pushes you forward into the station, and that's it. You've conquered 13. So yeah, those are my tips and tricks. So the main thing to remember is the surprise, not as bad as you think it is. Queue line, way worse than the ride. It bigs it up, it hypes it up, it does its job, but then it's not as bad as all that. And if you are nervous of the heights, I always recommend sitting on the left-hand side. So there you go. Now you have all you need to know to get out there and try 13. As I mentioned, I recommend this one. This is such a good one to do after you've conquered something like Runaway Mine Train. So yeah, give it a try. Let me know how you get on, and I'll see you in the next one. In the meantime, like and subscribe, and of course, always do the brave things. You've got this. You can do it. I believe in you.